Forward. There are moments in life when an encounter quietly leaves a mark on your heart. Even if it lasts only a brief instant, like a passing breeze, it continues to echo softly in the depths of memory. Unforgettable, my love. Ayako is the delicate and beautiful story of a Korean-American businessman and a Japanese flight attendant who meet through time and fate and share a fleeting yet heartfelt connection. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental. It was born from the author's imagination, inspired by fragments of emotion. What if only, and goodbye. May Ayako's story, accompanied by this poignant song, gently resonate with your heart. Chapter 1. Late Summer 1986. Under the Tokyo Sky. It was the end of August 1986, and the air already carried a hint of summer's farewell. He had chosen Nihon Sky Airlines solely due to scheduling convenience. A meeting awaited him immediately upon arrival at Narita. Coordination with the Tokyo branch and local market research, everything had to proceed on schedule. For him, the word business trip was simply part of his routine, leaving no room for emotion. As he settled into his window seat and reached for his documents, "Excuse me, would you like some coffee or tea?" The English was spoken with a gentle, refined accent. Looking up, he saw a young Japanese flight attendant standing before him, Ayako Nishimura. Deep brown eyes, neatly tied hair, and a perfectly pressed uniform. She greeted him with a respectful yet warm smile. "Coffee, please," he replied briefly. Her hands were calm, and the gesture with which she handed him the cup was graceful and composed. After a brief moment of eye contact, she asked softly, "Are you traveling for business?" "Yes, I have a meeting in Tokyo." She nodded slightly, her smile unwavering. "You have a very nice voice." He smiled back, slightly caught off guard, but not displeased. There was something curiously lingering about that brief exchange. Even after she walked away, he found himself gazing not at the papers in front of him, but at the coffee cup in his hand and the sky beyond the window. Chapter 2. Shinjuku Ramen and Her True Feelings. On the second night of his business trip, everything in Tokyo was going smoothly. After finishing dinner with a client, he decided not to return directly to the hotel and instead wandered alone through the streets of Shinjuku. A gentle rain had begun to fall. Among the people walking without umbrellas, a familiar silhouette caught his eye. It was Ayako, the flight attendant he had met on the plane. She seemed to recognize him too and looked up with a surprised expression. "Mr. Kang?" She wasn't in uniform this time, just a soft beige knit top and a navy blue skirt. Her long hair flowed freely, giving her a softer, calmer appearance than before. "What a surprise! I didn't expect to see you again." "Me neither. Are you off today?" "Yes. I have a long-haul flight the day after tomorrow, so I'm just taking it easy tonight." "Were you planning to eat?" "Just a quick bowl of ramen. I know a nice little spot around here." "Do you mind if I join you?" "Not at all. Ramen always tastes better with company." Inside the small ramen shop, with steam rising from their bowls, she suddenly opened up. "People often think traveling is glamorous, but in truth, wherever I go, I'm alone." He paused, lowering his chopsticks. "That's strange. I feel the same way. I travel all the time for work. Different cities, different languages. Same loneliness." That night they shared something warmer than the steaming broth. There were more glances than words, and even the silence between them felt comforting. Chapter 3. Reunion at Tokyo Tower. It was the final night of his business trip. The hotel room was too quiet. Even the sound of the air conditioner felt hollow and distant. Then he suddenly remembered something she had said. "If you have time, I recommend the night view from the Tokyo Tower Observatory." Without hesitation, he got into a taxi. Tokyo Tower. The city lights shimmered softly over the red steel frame of the structure. And there she was, Ayako. She stood gazing out over the city lights with a calm expression. "Mr. Kang, this must be fate." She spoke first. "I almost didn't come, but something told me I should." "I'm glad you did. The city looks peaceful from here." "Yes, it's quiet, even though so many people are living their stories right below." Something about her quiet words made his heart stir gently. Then she murmured, "You know what would make this view even better? A glass of wine." He smiled slightly and replied softly, "Then I know the perfect place. Come with me." Chapter 4. A Blue Butterfly and a Glass of Wine. Ginza, 10 p.m. The door of Le Papillon Bleu, the bar named the Blue Butterfly, opened quietly. The two of them sat side by side at the counter and ordered wine. Soft French jazz drifted through the dimly lit space. When the glasses were brought to the table, she lifted hers first, to new meetings and unexpected moments. "To you, Ayako." The gentle clink of their glasses deepened the stillness of the night. Under the soft lighting, her eyes shimmered with the hue of red wine. "Do you often come to places like this?" she asked. "Not really, but I remembered this one. Thought you might like it." "You're right. It's calming. Almost feels like time stops here." He nodded and took a slow sip of his wine. She set her glass down and stared quietly at her fingertips for a moment. "Sometimes I wonder if I'd lived a different life, maybe I'd be a pianist in a quiet bar like this." "You seem more like someone who'd inspire the pianist, not become one." She smiled, but behind that smile lingered a quiet trace of unfulfilled longing. Always flying, always leaving. It sounds romantic, but in reality it's just distance. "I understand. I travel for work too. Hotels, airports, meetings. It's a routine, not a life." They talked about their wandering lives, and like old friends, the emotional distance between them grew closer. Chapter 5. Night at the Seoul Hilton. November 1986. On his way back from a business trip to Hong Kong, he boarded a Nihon Sky flight bound for Seoul. As he entered the cabin and took his seat, a familiar voice reached his ears. "Mr. Kang." He looked up. There she was, Ayako. Her expression was a mix of surprise and joy, and she smiled softly. "What are the odds? Honestly, I have no idea. But it's really good to see you again." After takeoff, he made his way to the lounge. She was still on duty, but during a short break, she approached quietly. "I'll be staying at the Hilton Seoul this time." "Me too. That's where we crew stay when in Seoul." That evening they had dinner at Momoyama, a quiet Japanese restaurant at the foot of Namsan Mountain. Simple sushi, warm sake, and afterward the lounge on the 35th floor. As she looked out the window, she spoke softly. "I like this view. It feels like the city is holding its breath. Maybe it's just us, not wanting this moment to end." She poured champagne into his glass and gently toasted him. "To the night, and what it brings." That night they didn't say much, but in place of words, a tender silence spoke everything. Chapter 6. Once again in the sky. Summer 1987. Terry Kang was on his return flight from Los Angeles. After spending time with family, he was heading back to the Seoul office on a Nihon Sky flight. Carrying a document case and a laptop backpack, he made his way to business class. And there she was, Ayako. Still graceful, still radiant, with that same warm smile. "Mr. Kang, I should stop being surprised now. And I should start believing this is fate." It was a long-haul flight, over 10 hours. Yet to him it passed in the blink of an eye. Later she returned to him with her usual calm voice. "Champagne, Mr. Kang?" She gently placed a glass in front of him. "Only if you join me after landing." She smiled, nodding softly. "If the universe allows us one more coincidence, I'll take it." From that moment on, something stirred quietly in his heart. The name he had held on to for so long. She had returned. A third reunion in the sky. By then, it could no longer be called coincidence. It was something far more beautiful and achingly inevitable. Chapter 7. The last champagne on her fingertips. The cabin was quiet. Outside the window, the pre-dawn clouds drifted like a silent tide. Most of the passengers were asleep, and the cabin lights had been dimmed. Terry Kang sat with a book open on his lap, pretending to read. But the words never reached his eyes. Instead, his mind replayed her smile, the warmth of her fingertips, and the little exchanges they had shared. Before long, she returned, carrying a small bottle of champagne and 2 plastic glasses. "One last toast before we land?" "I thought you'd never ask." She smiled and quietly took the empty seat beside him. Their glasses touched with a soft clink. "To the sky, the only place we ever seemed to meet. And to you, Ayako, the most unexpected part of every flight." As their glasses slowly emptied, the words between them grew fewer. Their eyes lingered longer. Her fingertips gently touched the back of his hand, and in that brief moment he thought, maybe every journey he'd ever taken had been leading to this one moment. "I wish we had met on the ground." To this she smiled softly and answered, "Maybe one day we will." But that one day never came. Chapter 8. And then she vanished. November 1987. Autumn was deepening. A news bulletin suddenly scrolled across the TV screen. "Explosion midair. Unconfirmed cause. Suspected terrorism. Flight bound for Singapore from Abu Dhabi missing from radar. No Japanese passengers officially listed. However, Terry Kang sat frozen, staring at the screen. The words, "No Japanese passengers," brought a faint wave of relief. But then came the next sentence. "There are rumors that a Japanese flight attendant may have been on board as part of a temporary crew exchange." In that instant, the air was sucked from his lungs. The last thing she had told him echoed in his mind. "I'm scheduled for a long-haul flight from Abu Dhabi." The phone wouldn't connect. There was no reply to his emails. She had disappeared, like the wind, without a sound, and she never came back. Chapter 9. Explosion. The day's news. A few days later, Terry Kang received an official response from Nihon Sky. The message was brief and cold. "We regret to inform you that Ms. Ayako Nishimura's assignment details are confidential. We are unable to confirm any crew member's presence on Flight 782 at this time." He called Nihon Sky's Tokyo headquarters again and again, but every time he was met with form letter replies and silence. At night she began appearing in his dreams. Ayako, smiling as she walked toward him, the hem of her uniform swaying softly. But just as she drew near, she would vanish into the mist. And always, at the end of the dream, her voice would echo, "Mr. Kang, I'm sorry, but I had to fly one last time." He stood by the hotel window, gazing out in silence. The winter rain fell gently on the 35th floor lounge of the Seoul Hilton. The memory of that night, their champagne toast, came quietly back to him. Her eyes, seen through the glass, so deep, so beautiful, and tinged with sorrow. And then he whispered, almost inaudibly, "Ayako." Her name dissolved softly into the wind. Chapter 10. A Name Left in the Wind. Winter had arrived. Even during the day, Tokyo's sky remained draped in gray clouds. Though no snow had fallen yet, the air carried the quiet scent of farewell. After finishing all his scheduled meetings, Terry Kang deliberately kept one final day open, for silence. He made his way to the coast, Kamakura. She had once told him it was a place she often visited as a child. White waves lapped the shore, and sunlight shimmered over the water. He slowly knelt on the sand and pulled a small paper bag from his bag. Inside were the wine label from the last bottle they had shared, and a short handwritten note he had written himself. "If we meet again, let it be when neither of us has to leave." He released the note gently into the wind. The paper lifted and swirled, drifting away on the sea breeze, until it disappeared into the quiet rustle of the waves. Ayako. There was no longer any need to say her name aloud. It now lived, forever etched in his heart. Chapter 11. Ayako's Letter. Several months later, at his home in Los Angeles, Terry Kang received a letter from Japan. Sender, Ayako Nishimura. Date, November 13th, 1987. Just 2 days before the accident. His hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside was a neatly folded letter, written in her unmistakable handwriting. Dear Mr. Kang, if you are reading this letter, then I must have left without saying goodbye. I'll soon be departing on a long-haul flight. It's a special assignment. I volunteered for it. I simply wanted to feel the sky once more. Just one last time. Please don't worry. This isn't a farewell. It's just a small journey back to the version of myself who once dreamed of freedom. You were one of the few moments of kindness I encountered during my travels. At the end of every flight, I wanted to remember the sound of your voice. If fate ever allows, I hope to meet you again in another life, on the ground. Until that day, with all my heart, Ayako. He held the letter close to his chest. Tears welled up in his eyes. But they did not fall, just as she had wished. This letter was not a goodbye, but a quiet flight toward freedom. Chapter 12. Unforgettable, My Love. Several years later, he completed a piece of music, a song that held the memory of their 3 meetings in the sky. The night at Tokyo Tower, the bubbles of champagne, the wind at Kamakura. Every memory was carefully placed into each note. The title was a single phrase, Unforgettable, My Love, Ayako. He performed the piece for the first time at a small concert. Sitting quietly at the piano, he closed his eyes and pictured her face as he pressed the first key. The melody drifted softly, like a breeze wandering through the clouds. And by the time the final note faded, the room was filled with silent, tearful breaths. That night, standing alone backstage, he raised a glass of champagne. To you, Ayako, the sky was always yours, but your name will always stay here, with me. With her last letter pressed to his chest, he boarded another flight. But this time, he didn't care if it had a destination. His heart was already walking above the clouds with her. Author's note: love is, at times, like a letter that never reaches its destination. Yet the feeling within it never fades. 3 encounters, 1 farewell, and an eternal memory. Her name still lives within his music. Unforgettable, my love.